It's the official Catchup podcast with me, Ben Grant. I just realised last week that I never ever introduced myself in this podcast. I thought there'll be people out there thinking, who the fuck is this guy? So I thought I'll introduce myself properly this week. I'm Ben, and I'm also joined by Chris. How you doing, Chris?
Yeah, doing well, doing well. I was just about to say, no one can send you abuse if they didn't ken who you are, eh?
I put my Twitter at the end of things, man. So it's and talking about abuse, certainly been saying a lot of that the last couple of weeks. So we'll probably cover that at the end. We'll save the big topic till the end of the podcast. I think, Chris. I think well, keep the listeners involved.
And I was worried that you were going to talk about it for the whole hour, mate.
well, we could, man, if you want, because we've got plenty to talk about. We could do it. I almost texted yesterday about doing a wee emergency podcast, but nah, I'm not joking. Better stuff to do. They went to the spa yesterday. We had a game on Friday. Went to the spa instead on Saturday. It was fucking tremendous. Tell you that for free.
I was wondering what you were doing on a Saturday about football, actually.
Aye, so we obviously played Friday night against Darvel. Less said about that, the better. But it was nice to have a Friday night game. It was actually nice and cool come Friday night because it was roasting through the day on Friday, and so was Saturday by all accounts for those playing football. Toyed with the idea of going to a game. He was like thinking about it. Couldn't decide which game to really go to. I was going to go see Troon Clydebank, Cumnock, Hurlford, Petershill Beath, but Petershill Beath was away, and I thought, nah, do you know what? Lauren's obviously involved in football now as well, so I think she's sick of football by the end of this week. So we thought, like, we'll do something else. I was like, see if we can get a wee massage, just a wee full body massage. So I went to find one of the local hotels that's got a spa, and like, I come down at 2. Like, brilliant, right, we're going there then, so no football. And I thought about dipping into Troon versus Clydebank, as I say at the end, but just ended up going for some food and having a football-free day, so it was quite nice. And I watched that Man United game at 5:30, which was a bit of hilarity for all concerned. I'm sure I say this before Spurs played. Me and Chris are both Spurs fans, so we're also
keep the head up the day, eh? We're playing the. I try to be nice on Twitter about my feelings, especially when it comes to Chelsea and Arsenal. But yeah. I try not to use any sweary words. Let's put it that way when it comes. But I don't know. It sometimes comes out during games, especially with Spurs. You know, half my Twitter's about Spurs when they're playing, and usually it's bashing our own players, Ben. But yeah, that's just the way I am.
Right. Got a good feeling about today, Chris. Got a good feeling. Question though: have you watched the Arsenal All or Nothing documentary yet?
I am watching one episode, and I don't think it's out yet. And that's when we beat them because they're absolute shite. Oh, sorry, it's coming out now. But I am going to watch that one episode when we beat them because they ducked us. I heard there was, oh God, we're going into Arsenal Spurs now. But they ducked us in January. Everyone knows it. And there was no mention it in the documentary that they ducked us. So I can't wait till that episode's out so I can watch it with glee. To relive the fact that, yes, we got the Champions League over them, and deservedly so, because even though they've got Gabriel Jesus and all this other signings next, we're still a level above. Let's put it this way, Ben. My son is 6 tomorrow, and he has never seen Arsenal finish above Spurs, so that's all all to say. But yeah, we're getting sidetracked right at the start of the episode.
I mean, these things always happen. I mean, talking about Arsenal, I have watched the full documentary so far. Did quite enjoy it. I was interested to see the background, but the thing that stood out for me was how many staff do they have, man? They have like ridiculous amounts of staff in that club. But yeah, obviously we're not here to talk about Arsenal or Spurs or
people think they're watching the wrong podcast.
We're recording this at 1:20 on Sunday. I have left the Kelly game at half time because Kelly are 3-0 down to Celtic. So what's happening in top flight football now? Well, let's just not dwell on that too much. But let's go straight into the Lowland League then, as we always do on this podcast. And we'll start with Berwick Rangers 3, East Stirlingshire 0. Good result for Berwick.
Yeah, looked thoroughly deserved. It looked like they had a lot of momentum. I watched the highlights just before we came on. 3 fantastic finishes. Alex Harris scoring a brace, and I think Jamie Stevenson with a really good finish as well. Shire obviously had a really good result in the cup midweek against St Mirren B. Dale talked about wanting to prove people wrong, something we talked about in the last podcast. But I think if you're going to do that, you need to do it consistently. But in fairness to Dale, I mean, I don't think Ross Connolly could have done anything about them free strikes. They were too precise. And obviously, we rate Berwick. We've said that. They obviously had a tough one against Broomhill last week, where was the goal offside? I think it was. But yeah, it's not a surprising result. I think Shire are really decent defensively. That's one thing we probably didn't mention, when we've been talking about them. But Connor Green, guys like that, always a standout. Ross Connolly's probably one of the, probably still the best keeper in the league at the moment. So it's going to be tough for Shire, but I mean Berwick, I think they'll march on now after that result.
Yeah, it's a great win. We also talked about Shire last week and how obviously that squad's a bit different from what it's been like before. They're obviously trying to kind of build. We keep saying transition probably every week. If we had a pound for the time we said transition, we'd probably be fairly rich in this podcast. But I mean, great result for Berwick, and hopefully can kick on from there for sure. Next game then, Bo'ness United versus Hearts B. It was a 4-1 convincing victory for Bo'ness United, and they sit second top of the league. Bo'ness have started very, very strongly. Obviously, they got a game in hand over EK as well. But I think for me, the surprise package so far of the league, Chris.
Yeah, Alison Jones. Alison Jones has been a funny one for me because he's a really talented footballer. He's been in the Lowland League before. Obviously, I think he was probably a wee bit part at teams like Berwick and Bonnyrigg. He was at Trinent for a wee bit last season. I think he only made like 3 sub appearances in the league, and then he went to Haddington Athletic, won the conference with them, and that's where he really took off as a player. And Bo'ness seemed to be getting the best out of him, obviously scoring a hat trick. Tom Grant, I think, got the other one. Fantastic from Bo'ness, but I think in fairness, you have to say that they've probably not had one of the harder starts. They've not had like a EK start or a Spartan start. It's just not been on the same level. But big test next week when they go away to East Kilbride, and I'm sure East Kilbride will want to end that undefeated streak. And to me, that's already game of the week. It was brought up by by a few people. Obviously, that has to be game of the week, and I think it is, because we'll really see what Bo'ness are made of when they come up against, I think, and everyone's eyes, or certainly our eyes, East Kilbride as the favourites. But if they can get a result at K Park, I mean, that would really sort of push them forward as potentially a dark horse this season.
Yeah, I think, as I say, the start's unbelievable. Yet to be defeated. Obviously, they've had that, as I said, that game in hand with the 19 teams in the league. They obviously missed one of the weeks, but 4 wins out of 5, and scoring goals as well. I think that's the other thing as well about Bo'ness. They're scoring plenty of goals, and again, we still don't know an awful lot about Hearts B, but from what we've kind of seen in terms of results so far, not too impressive. Certainly not in the calibre, obviously, of Rangers and Celtic B, which we knew they would be like, but I'm not sure they'll be convinced that the Lowland League will be for them after the start that they've had. But fair play to Bo'ness, as I say, surprise package, a team they weren't really talking about before at the start of the season. So it'll be a massive game, as you said. When's that next Saturday? Is it
next Saturday? Yeah, because this will be the first week. I don't think that teams will be playing 2 fixtures. It's pretty much week to week, hopefully, until obviously you introduce the cups and whatever else. So, a wee bit of a break, which is probably needed for a few teams in terms of getting extra training sessions in and at this early stage.
I might actually go to that game because we've got a free week because of the South Challenge Cup. We've got a bye, so no league game for us on Saturday next week. So might actually go and see that, because I don't get a chance to go to a lot of Lowland League games because of obviously duties elsewhere. So East Kilbride just at my doorstep almost. So maybe one for me, that, I must say. Next one then in the Lowland League would be Cali Braves 3, Rangers B 3 now. I don't know if Chris is going to call me out for my comments in the WhatsApp group or not, so I'll just wait and see and pass on to him.
Yeah, So B team's no longer first, Ben. Obviously, they're more close to my predictions. I think they're sitting third and fourth, which is what I called. Yeah, not getting too excited. But what a comeback from Cali Braves. Ricky Waddle, I love his interviews. If you've listened to Ricky, I think he's always honest to a fault. He seemed really. I think the interview was a bit of a strange one because he was obviously annoyed at the first half performance, but he was kind of, you could kind of see that he had something in him, that he was happy that they came back to 3-3, but he was still like mixed emotions in terms of the performance, because they obviously had a shocker the first half. Rangers B looked like they were going to win that game quite comfortably. Cali Braves have came back. Jamie Watson, Mark Kelly, Scott Cusick getting the goals. I listened to Robbie Fraser's interview as well for Rangers B, and he said obviously I think it was a case that they got a bit complacent. They thought the game was won at 3-0, but if you know this league, you know the level. No games are won at halftime. It doesn't matter who you're against. There's no no games won at halftime when there's a team that's got a wee bit of desire. And one point in that, I think I'm happy for a lot of the Braves guys, but Scotty Cusick obviously injured last season. I think he left Broomhill, had a wee sort of short stint at Gala. It's good to see him really coming on at the Braves, and there's a few of them. Luke Kelly's came on, Zach Butterworth, he comes up quite a lot. They've got such a talented midfield and a talented forward line, and you can't forget obviously the back line with guys like Jamie Walker and Scott Forrester as well. So I feel like we talk about them quite a lot, probably more than any other team, but it's just the way it is. I think they keep surprising us, which is good to see, as we like, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I looked at the odds list pre-match for the Lowland League and noticed Rangers B. I think were odds on against Cali Braves, and I thought, to me, that's free money as far as I'm concerned. And I think I put in our group chat, myself, Mozzie, and Chris, said, "Oh, look, 3-0 half time, 3-0 Rangers B. There we go. There's cash in the bank if these bet them today." And then I think I looked on it 8 minutes. It was like 3 each. I couldn't quite believe it. It was a complete shock. But that's probably a bit of that kind of youthfulness of that Rangers B side. Just not quite have that kind of the composure to see out a game, especially even when they maybe lose the goal early in the second half, and you probably still want to try and shut up shop, but they just maybe quite didn't know how to do that. They're probably not used to having to do that against a team like that, like Cali Braves, and that's probably the difference that you'll see for those players going from playing in kind of youth academy setups to playing kind of, I guess, men's league football and a bit more dogged matches where teams are just still fighting for every ball and trying to get the result. So yeah, absolutely fair play to Cali Braves. It's a great comeback.
I mean, just a point on that, Ben. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that the likes of Rangers B, possibly Celtic B, their players think they should be winning every game. They go out and trying to win every game. It doesn't matter who they're against, and I get that mentality, but I don't think they could be too harsh on themselves. Obviously, I mean, they're still young players, like you mentioned, Ben. So it's just about character, really, building a strong mindset and saying like, all right, when they're good players, obviously technically good, but sort of late teens to early 20s. I mean, you still need to develop as a footballer mentally as well as sort of physically and technically.
Yeah, absolutely. Next game then, Silver Strolls now, Trinent now. Probably not much to talk about in that game. It was obviously sounds like a boring 0-0 draw, if I've ever heard of it.
I had Matt White had a really good game. I got a couple of the Trinent fans, I'm guessing, said that he was really class. And obviously, Matt White's a top goalie. Really good draw for Civil, I guess. You could probably look at it both ways. It's a good away point as well for Trinent, because obviously Broomhill got, I was at the game that Broomhill got beat by Civil, and it's one of those tricky fixtures. I mean, two good sides probably cancelling each other out, but I did hear Matt White had a lot to do and done well as well. So
next game then, Edinburgh Uni 1, Spartans 3. Probably straightforward win for Spartans, and as far as they're concerned, Edinburgh B obviously toiling at the bottom of the table, but you'd expect the Spartans to go there and get a result, Chris.
Yeah, Blair Henderson double and Jamie Dishington overhead kick. I'm sure Dish. I'll give him that one. I think he meant that obviously, but yeah, that was probably the only Lowland League fixture yesterday that I looked at and was like, yeah, I'm confident Spartans will win that one. The rest were kind of a wee bit sort of like, I don't know. I couldn't really. If I was a betting man, I probably wouldn't have went with them basically. But Spartans, I was kind of dead set that they were going to win that. But in fairness, Edinburgh, Uni did have the lead to begin with. But I'm sure going into the second half, Spartans probably really went for it and showed them up a wee bit.
Next game then, Gretna won, Celtic beat 4. Obviously, Gretna had a good result last week, and everyone knows my thoughts on Gretna, but we always know that Celtic are going to be a class side, and they've got those good technical players that to play against. And Gretna obviously at home probably want to build on the result from last week, but couldn't quite do it against Celtic B. Took a bit of a battering.
I think it was a similar one to Edinburgh Uni Spartans, where I think Gretna were leading to begin with, and then obviously Celtic kind of got their act together. Bruno Davidson, probably a bit of a game changer, who was in the team of the month for July for Celtic, really good sort of winger. But then we talk about B teams and single out, one or two players. I mean, the whole teams are usually technically good footballers, but probably just a wee bit too much for Gretna on the day. Celtic B, again, 4th in the league. You expect them to be in that sort of position. Gretna are not at the stage where they're one of the top teams, whereas probably Rangers B and Celtic B, we consider them to be at least in the top 6, I would say.
No, absolutely. We've always said that they're going to be class sides, and I think, like the way obviously we see with Rangers B, is the one thing we probably question mark around those B teams is that mentality. So we'll see how that develops. But obviously, at the start of the season, I was pretty convinced that one of those teams are going to win the league still. But I'm not deviating for that at all. I think I still think
stick to your guns.
Absolutely, I think there's still plenty of matches to be played in this league, and I think one of those sides. I'm kind of edging towards Rangers B slightly, but that doesn't mean I'm a Rangers fan, folks. Before you start any of that crap, I've heard a lot of stuff about that this week, and it's funny. But
that room looks rather suspect in the blue there, eh?
Very blue in it. Very blue. Yeah, absolutely. That's me all over. Next game then, East Kilbride 4, Galferdine Rovers 0. EK keeping the pace, scoring plenty of goals. They look the real deal this year. I think we've always had a bit of a question mark around EK with their starts to seasons and things like that, but they've certainly come out of the traps flying this year.
Yeah, 2 braces, Bob McHugh and Ronan Hughes, who I'm a big fan of Ronan Hughes. I liked him at Hamilton Accies, actually. And when they signed him, I was like, oh, that's a really good signing. Bob McHugh, obviously experienced striker, he'll be banging them in all season. Along with, obviously, we better mention Cammy Elliott as well, because I always get in trouble when I didn't mention St. Cammy from the EK faithful, because he's another one that could score goals for fun. But I was actually, I listened, as I keep saying, I listened to interviews and highlights is what I do. Obviously, we kind of want to do this podcast well when we can. So we do try and watch everything that's available at the time. I thought it was a bit interesting that Bill Orr said that they weren't actually playing well, which is, it's like, I mean, you won 4-0, but yeah, that kind of struck me off a wee bit. I was kind of like, oh, all right, you're not playing well, but you won 4-0. But to me, that just says that they can play a lot better. I mean, if they thought they weren't playing well for a 4-0 win, I'm expecting maybe, 8 against Bonus? I don't know. No, it's going to be a tough game, obviously, but EK, apart from the blip against Rangers B, another team that we think are going to do well anyway, but they've been solid. There's not much to say. I guess I'm really excited for that Bonus game, because that'll be I wouldn't even say a proper test, because Galliferdine, I saw them against Spartans who were missing a few players. I don't know what the situation was, against East Kilbride, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to that Bonus game.
I think you mentioned Ronan Hughes there. He's probably one we could actually probably start building a team basically of players who are too good for this level. We could probably start writing out each player in each position to have an 11 of players that are too good for this level. And Ronan Hughes, for me, is one of those players for sure. He's a great player. And as you say, you mentioned about Hamilton. I remember he played against us a few years back in a friendly and just he was the kind of standout player. I'm just surprised, obviously, he didn't stick around in the kind of higher levels. But I mean, in terms of UK, it's a great result. Clean sheet. I'm not really sure what they're certainly unhappy about there, given the result, the clean sheet as well. So for me, he's looking pretty good, and I'm glad they've kind of come out the traps flying, as I said, because they have started poorly the last couple of seasons, and they're always talked about. I mean, how many years have we predicted UK are going to win the league, and
Too many.
they've let us down badly on this podcast. So I didn't predict them this year. I went elsewhere, and this could be their year to finally get promoted. Because I mean, for us, I think probably one of the teams we'd want to see go up is East Kilbride, because I think they're far capable and better than this division. So for me, yeah, great result for EK. The final game then in the Lowland League was Cowdenbeath 1, Dalbeattie Star 1. First points on the board for Dalbeattie. Probably say more misery for Cowdenbeath, Chris.
Yeah, of course, I was at the game, and we don't sugarcoat anything on this podcast. Let's kind of preface what I'm about to say, but I think the first half probably one of the worst halves of football I've ever seen at any level. I'm being harsh, but I do think there was other factors. Obviously, it's two teams that are not really doing well. In fairness, they haven't started well. It looked like a lot of the boys were hiding, especially the younger lads. You know, when you're a team that's probably not doing as well, players don't want the ball. They don't want to be the driving force. And I think that's what I saw in the first half. And I'm probably being a wee bit too harsh, actually, but I wouldn't be doing justice to the fans that paid a tenner to go and see that if I didn't say these things. But I think the conditions, obviously, no one's used to hot weather. I think that probably didn't help. The pitch was dry, so the ball was bouncing. I think both teams were kind of awful on the second ball, and I think that's probably a part of the reason with the pitch. In fairness, it's the first time I've seen either team this season, so again, it could have been the conditions, it could have been the fact that certainly Dalbeattie had probably players missing, and they're still getting guys in. So, but yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good, is what I'm trying to say. Dalbeattie got their goal, probably against the run of play, I would say. It was kind of a really scrappy goal, just poor defending from Cowdenbeath, and it was kind of like that. The chances that were in the game, there wasn't any sort of real quality. It was just sort of stramashes in the box, and it was similar with the Cowdenbeath goal when they equalised in the second half. There wasn't really much football being played, is what I'm saying, but yeah, so 1-1. Cowdenbeath had two similar chances again to win the game. The second one was probably the closest, and this was probably in stoppage time. The part of the Red Seas, like they literally just had one player just had to literally almost, they could have passed it into the net, but both of them, two players, I've never seen anything like this. They both smashed into each other. Two Cowden players smashed into each other, going for the winner, basically. I mean, it just wouldn't have happened back in the day, because you would have heard, winners or leave it. A lot of these shouts you didn't hear nowadays in football, and that's what, certainly if the ball was on or not, when I was playing football, all I would hear is leave it. If it was even near them or not, it was just what was said. But I don't.
What was that one? Mine,
Mine are winners or.
Remember, you used to get into trouble for shouting mine when you're a wee guy, because you were taught to say your name rather than say mine. I was like, looking back, I was like, what does that matter? Really? But talking about the game, yeah, Cowdenbeath don't sound like they're a great side and kind of falling rapidly down that table. Obviously, for Dalbeattie, you mentioned there that still building the squad.
In fairness, I'm bemoaning the quality. It's still two teams gelling. Alfie Robinson was a shining light in that Cowdenbeath team, especially when Cammy Graham and Ben Weeks came on. I think that changed the game. They looked like they had a wee bit more thrust going forward. Cowdenbeath a wee bit more. Cammy Graham's another one that probably could still be playing higher up. He really, I wouldn't say changed the game, obviously, because they still drew, but yeah, Alfie Robinson, I kind of feel like he he's probably missing just a touch. He was his passing was really good. I kind of wanted to see him drive forward more, from the right back position. He done it in the second half a couple of times, and I was like, that's what he should be doing every game. But I don't know if it's just the tactics. Obviously, I think Maurice Ross has probably been a wee bit more cautious, which is fair because he's not sure. He's probably not got the knowledge of his team yet. Obviously, only after a few games. So I'm worried about both of them. Actually, we were discussing whether we should be worried about Cowdenbeath last show, and I would say I am now worried about Cowdenbeath after seeing what I saw on Saturday. There's still bright sparks. I did message Jordan actually, I think on Friday. I don't think he'll mind me saying. I was just saying I'm looking forward to seeing them play, and I think he made it clear that they've not had their best team yet, and they're still boys they're wanting to bring in. Obviously Mason McCready, which goalkeeper on loan at Gala last season, bit of a strange one. Obviously was at Cowdenbeath, then the loan got terminated, and then suddenly he's playing against them at Dalbeattie Star. So that was quite interesting. Some kick on Mason, by the way. He was kicking it like far up the pitch, and obviously there was no wind yesterday. So I mean, I think I said on Twitter, but if there's a keeper going to score this season from long range, I think it's going to be him because his kicking is phenomenal, really good. But there's bright spots. I think Ben still a lot of gelling to do with them and a lot of teams, but it's been a struggle so far for both sides, and it is worrying, I think, at this stage.
I think they said a few weeks back. I think it's going to be down to those matches against each other in the league in terms of Dalbeattie, Cowdenbeath probably getting a maybe Shire. They've probably got enough, you'd think, to stay out of that relegation battle, but those matches against each other are going to be absolute key this year for them, and it's a draw between Cowdenbeath and Dalbeattie. But I think for me, Cowdenbeath, they sound like they're in trouble, and they certainly could be the team to drop down. I don't see where the change happens with Cowdenbeath. I think with Dalbeattie, if they can get their side together and get a bit of training and implement the style of play that Jordan wants, then I think Dalbeattie can pull themselves out of that kind of bottom part of the table. But I just don't see it from Cowdenbeath from what I've seen so far. And who knows? But it's going to be difficult in that bottom of the table for sure.
Just to add a wee bit, again, I was probably a wee bit too negative. Just to add a further positive spin just before we move on. But, I think Dalbeattie defended well, certainly. Cowdenbeath, they should have won the game, I would say. They had two glorious chances and none of them came off. And what I mean by glorious chances, I mean absolute sitters. Like, if they had literally just got a foot on it, it would have been a goal and they would have won the game. But and they had two of them. They had two opportunities. And to me, it's just about communication. It really is just about communication. There's a lack of communication between players. And that probably goes into the fact that they don't know each other. They're still gelling. Yeah, I think that was the only positive for Dalbeattie, that they did defend well when Cowdenbeath were really going at them in that second half. But yeah, look, we're only a few games in. I'm saying I'm worried about them based on one performance. I think, as you say, I think Dalbeattie have a more chance of improving than Cowdenbeath, that seem like they have got a sort of what I would describe as a settled squad. I think there's more to come from Dalbeattie, probably less so from Cowdenbeath in terms of people coming in and players coming in. It does seem like they've got their lot now, if you will.
Yeah, I think as well. The other thing you probably worry about it, and this is, I'm going to use a kind of comparison I've seen about Man United, and this is probably miles apart, but we're going to go there anyway. I think the thing for Cowdenbeath will be is, to an extent, probably Dalbeattie as well, the poor start at the bottom of the table. They're going to struggle to get guys to come in, I think, for me, because who's going to want to come in and have a relegation battle? I feel like so. That'll be the thing that I would worry about Cowdenbeath, is that will players want to go to them if they do want to try and make the changes. Obviously, Dalbeattie probably have that pool of players down in the south of Scotland where they can maybe go and pick up some maybe gems and get them in maybe kind of unknown quantities within the Lowland League and might do well. But I think for me, Cowdenbeath probably, can I just say that settled squad's there and have guys in contracts. It'll be harder to ship guys out if the guys aren't good enough. So Certainly worried for Cowdenbeath. All right, that's the pretty much the roundup of the results for the games that took place on Saturday. As we record this, it's like 10:02 on Sunday. Broomhill are going to be playing Stirling Uni at Stirling Uni today. As it is, I'm not too sure why that's on a Sunday. Is it to do with Parks? Is it or something? Maybe presumably.
Stirling Albion at home yesterday, maybe.
They were against Stenhousemuir. Broomhill looking to kick on from a good result last week, but I think kind of listening to Sky and the podcast stuff they did, they like obviously promote their podcast too much, but they're obviously cautious of Stirling Uni. But
I'm actually glad that we're not covering Stirling Uni. We seem to praise Chris Geddes like way far too much on this podcast. I'm surprised we're not called the Chris Geddes podcast or Stirling Uni. But no, if they get a result, it'll be fantastic.
I was all set to go to it and then realised it was in Stirling. I was like, totally not happening. I had no way of getting there, so I was like, I will be going. I thought it was at Cumbernauld, so or at Broadwood, so it was planning to go on the en route to. But I'll get to a Broomhill game at some point, hopefully this season. I think we've got. Let's see, next week we've got a week off, and then I think we've got. There's a midweek game. I think they play midweek, I think, the end of August, something like that as well. So maybe try and get through for one of those. All right, then moving on to the South of Scotland Football League. There was 2 matches within that league. Obviously, still cup games and things like that must be happening within the South of Scotland at the moment. But it was a 4-0 win for Creetown against the Cuthbert's Wanderers, and it was a 3-0 win for Abbeyvale versus Mid Annandale. Thankfully, Loch Maben weren't playing because apparently I said it wrong last week, so don't want to upset the natives down there on my pronunciation of their name. But what I would say is it's spelt terribly if that's how you pronounce it. I'm just going to put that out there right now.
I had to tell Ben how to pronounce Loch Maben, but no, I did actually. I did try and edit that it sounded a wee bit better, but I think it probably sounded a wee bit more horrific. I didn't notice at the time how you said it, so. But look, in fairness to Shove, who listens in, we don't really cover the South of Scotland too much, but he was one of the guys that highlighted Creetown, obviously, and they beat St Cuthbert's. A really good result for them. I probably know a wee bit more about Abbeyvale. Fraser Brawls, obviously. I saw that Aidan Kerr was up for Player of the Month or whatever. Spurs fan, so yeah, I've got a lot of time for Aidan. But yeah, again, it's been a bit of a weird with South of Scotland because there's only been so many select fixtures, but I almost forgot about Abbeyvale actually in terms of them kind of potentially being one of the higher teams. But yeah, certainly Shove knows more than us in terms of South of Scotland, and it looks like Creetown have got a fantastic result against St Cuthbert's, a team that's kind of obviously probably changing now since Jordan's went to Dalbeattie. But yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of learning more about South of Scotland. The only kind of thing that I keep up with is obviously transfers, and I can see what players they have and stuff like that. But again, still a wee bit of an unknown. But I'm sure as the season goes, we'll start to figure it out, Ben, in terms of the South of Scotland.
Yeah, obviously we're waiting for more league games to take place as well. There's not a great deal to talk about. You don't see an awful lot online as well from some of those teams. Well, not they've got a lot of social media presence. I don't really see it myself, so it's kind of hard to find out a lot of detail because you're obviously not going to the games because you've got your own stuff to do on a Saturday. So we'll maybe make a wee trip down to one of the South of Scotland games at some point, or maybe we'll catch them in a cup competition or something against a Lowland League or a West or East side, maybe.
I still think Lockhart Thistle, who obviously didn't play, but I think they'll still be a top team from what I've seen of their side. So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think we've mentioned it before, Ben, but I think it's going to be one of those leagues where it could be up for grabs for a few teams. I don't think there's a clear favourite, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's probably not like a team that you would say that are like kind of heavily backed or signing guys that are like a mile apart from the rest of the teams in the division. They're all fairly even in terms of the sides. They're obviously majority of them are local boys playing for kind of almost the local sides and things like that as well. So I think it's going to be quite tight within the South of Scotland League for sure. All right, moving on then to the East of Scotland League, we start the Premier Division. It was a 3-1 win for Dundonald Bluebell against Blackburn United. Crossgates Primrose beat Haddington Athletic 2-1. Greenfield Swifts won 2-0 against Broxburn Athletic. Musselburgh Athletic lost 1-0 to Tynecastle, and Otley United got beat 5-1 off of Linlithgow Rose. Pennycook Athletic won 2-1 against Hillabeath Hawthorn. Socky Juniors won 6-1 against Lothian Thistle Hutchie Vale, and Vale Leithen got beat 3-2 off of Inverkeith and Hillfield Swifts. We'll probably start with Linlithgow Rose, a good convincing 5-1 victory against Oakley United, Chris.
To be fair, I think that's what Linlithgow Rose needed after the few weeks. Oakley United obviously are just a promoted team. They lost obviously Stuart Love to Ken Beef, so that he was one of their key players. Yeah, as I say, I mean, it's no surprise in terms of the result. You would think Linlithgow would go out and win that one. Mark Stowe, obviously, I rate him very highly. He got a few goals in that game. So yeah, I guess it's we've talked a lot about Linlithgow in terms of their quality, but in terms of the result, I think it was probably as expected. They need to start doing them sort of results against the higher the teams that we would expect to be a wee bit higher. Oakley United, in fairness to them, they had a great season last year getting promoted, but they're not one of the stronger East of Scotland Premier sides.
No, I think we've talked plenty about Linlithgow Rose so far, and I think we expect them to do that, and they've obviously done that fairly easily. Elsewhere then, but probably not a lot to talk about, but Socky winning 6-1 against Lothian Thistle Hutchie Vale. 6 goals for Socky is a great performance, I would say, for them.
Socky, they're like becoming a podcast favourite, aren't they? As much as we've talked about Socky on the podcast, we have talked about Lothian Thistle Hutchie Vale as well, and obviously they've lost a few of their mainstay players. I don't expect them to do really well in the East of Scotland Premier. They were kind of lower down the league last year. I do feel a wee bit worried about them. But again, Socky, some result for Socky. I don't know where I've got Socky really. I mean, they're third at the moment. Still undefeated with Jeanfield and obviously Pennycook. So if they can sort of pull a few results together, I mean, they could be a dark horse. I keep using the word dark horse today, but I'm just surprised at how good Socky have been so far.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the other thing that stands out for me with Socky is the amount of goals they're scoring. 16 in 4 games. They're absolutely rattling them in against the opposition and doing really well. And again, it's a team that we probably didn't expect to be in the top 3 of the division for sure. I think elsewhere, obviously, look at Jeanfield and 4 out of 4, Pennycook 4 out of 4 in terms of their results as well. So it's not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination for Socky, but yet to lose a match and certainly started well. It could be anything. And obviously, we're predominantly talking about them as a kind of cup side, but maybe this is the year to have a performance in the league. I mentioned that the teams at the top of the table, Jeanfield Swifts won 2-0 against Broxburn Athletic, but Pennycook also won 2-1 against Hillabeath Hawthorn. Good start for both sides, would you say, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, the last sort of few seasons, Jeanfield and Pennycook have been up there. I didn't expect... I wouldn't say I didn't expect it, but I think Pennycook have done really well because they did lose a few players, obviously, to Edinburgh, FC Edinburgh, I should say, and a few others as well. So they look like they're still firing as good as ever. I have to kind of talk about them because Dougie Penman gets annoyed if we don't mention Cookie. But to be fair, obviously, I really like Pennycook. So I try not to favour too many teams. But no, solid win against Hillabeath. Hillabeath team that's not showing at the moment that they've improved, but certainly I feel like they've got a better team than they did last season. 2-1. In terms of the scoreline, obviously, it does seem like a close game, but the big man, Andy Forbes, who seems to be doing really well, obviously. He got the first, seems to be in amongst the goals. He was suspended, I think. He got sent off the first game, and then he's came back, and he's really performing well. Obviously, Taylor Henry with the second for Pennycook, and then I think it was, I wouldn't say so much a consolation, but a really good goal by Lyle Kellican for the Hawes that made it 2-1. But yeah, Pennycook, I wouldn't say I'm surprised at it because we know how good they are. They are a top East of Scotland team. We can say the same about Jeanfield as well. But Yeah, I think those showdowns against the likes of Linlithgow Rose will be paramount to who's winning that league this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think again, I probably think more of the East Scotland teams is cup sides, but it's me more kind of spend more time and looking at what's going on in the actual league, and you look and see uh, both great sides in terms of Dreamfields and Pennycook. And it's going to be another tough league. I think we mentioned Linlithgow earlier on, and obviously Salkey came out of the traps well, and it's one of those that it's going to be a tough league to win, and whoever wins it will have done a great job across the season. Just before we go to the West of Scotland League, we'll probably just pick up the fact that St Genta got beat this week off of St Andrews United in the second division. So, bit of a surprise for me, certainly, because I expect St Genta to win pretty much every week. But maybe Jamie Finlay was on holiday or something. I don't know. Maybe that's what it was. But unfortunate result for St Genta, but a good win, obviously, for St Andrews United, getting a result against a team that everyone probably expects to win most of their games in that division.
Yeah, we had to get a mention in there, so we're not showing just the best of St Genta there. Obviously, terrible, but bust the coop in that one. I think you know what I mean. So
they must have been pretty. If we're talking about coupons, they must have been pretty short. I would have thought, but yeah, fair play to St Andrews United for sure. All right, as I said, we're going to move on to the West of Scotland League.
So, as you mentioned earlier, Ben, obviously, Kilwinning Rangers played Darvel on Friday night, but we alluded to it earlier, and we kind of touched on it a wee bit in the last podcast, but Kilwinning, obviously, no harm, no foul in terms of the playing an ineligible player. What are your thoughts on that one? What have you got to say to the conspiracy theorists and whatnot?
So I've obviously come at this probably with three hats on really in this situation, right? The first hat obviously is a club media kind of output and persona. I can obviously come from it from a footballing perspective and a podcaster, but I also come to it as a husband as well, which people are going to find that strange because my wife is the club secretary at Kilwinning Rangers, and I think for me that's probably the one that's annoying me the most is the fact that the flack that she's took online in the last kind of couple of weeks, suggesting that she'd made mistakes and she should do her job better and things like that. And there was suggestions of cheating and, as you mentioned, their conspiracy and all this kind of stuff. And that for me was very frustrating to see because the people who were talking online, and now obviously we're talking about people online, and you can probably ignore half these people, but I think for me, the people who were talking were just so ill-informed about the situation. I was obviously massively close to the situation, and that was really annoying. People didn't understand the rules, and I'm not just talking about idiots on forums and Twitter and Facebook and things like that. We're talking about football managers and players and committee members of other clubs who just didn't have a clue what was going on. So we set the scene for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about. We signed 15 new players back in, June. It would have been roughly July. And as I said, Lauren, my wife, is the club secretary and had done all the paperwork for each player and made sure that all the guys had the right contracts and things like that in place, and done a fantastic job for someone who doesn't really know football that well and got into football because of me predominantly. That's great, and she's new at being a club secretary. She's been involved probably since maybe January time when our club secretary departed, and we needed somebody who was good at kind of things like attention to detail and doing the right thing and following the rules and all that kind of stuff. And to me, something obviously I live with day in day out. She's so straight down the middle. There was no ever any doubt in my mind there was any sort of cheating or deliberate action that took place, or something that was done by accident. So I think from our perspective, she attended a meeting with all the club secretaries before the season starts, and we were advised that if you had new players from different clubs, you wouldn't be able to check their suspension history. So they were advised to contact SFA. we did that. Sent all the details in terms of the player names, data births, IDs, all the stuff that you need to provide to get that information. And for whatever reason, within the systems within the SFA that tell you around discipline, that Kev Nicol had no outstanding suspensions. So that was fine. We told the manager, good to play Kev and play everyone else. There's no one you're going to have to leave out the team. Played the game. Obviously, we played Irvine Meadow, the first game of the season, 1-3-1. It transpired after the match that Kev had actually had a red card in the last game of the season, and he shouldn't have been playing in the game. Now, as you say, we had kind of confirmation from the SFA via the admin system and via individuals at the SFA who provide us with confirmation that those guys were good to play. So there was no checks that we couldn't have done that would have told us anything any different at that point. And when someone tells you kind of within the organisation who's paid, works full time and does the job day in, day out, knows the disciplinary system within Scottish football better than any of us, we took that as he was good to play. So as I say, it ended up that we had then served a notice of complaint by the West Scotland Football League. And I've seen a lot of crap online about how the game should have been, what would have happened, would have been the result would have been changed and reversed and things like that. Now that's not the rules within the West Scotland Football League. The rule was that if you play an ineligible player, hard to say, that you would get a 3-point deduction and £100 fine. Now, it wouldn't have mattered the result of the match. If we'd won the game or lost the game, drawn the game, you still would have had a 3-point deduction. Now that is a rule that clubs voted for at the AGM back in June of this year, because originally I think the rule was like a £500 fine for playing an ineligible player, and clubs were up in arms about the cost of that. And obviously, rightly so. There's some clubs on our level that couldn't afford that sort of fine, so they changed the rules. They should know the rules, and that's the bit that annoys me most, is that the fact that a lot of people were saying things online and they just didn't have a clue what they're talking about. You're still seeing it today online that people are saying this, and so obviously Saturday we played Darvel on Friday night. Kev Nicol was featured and played in that match. On Saturday morning we got an email from the West Scotland Football League to say that there was no case to answer on the part of Kev. Or playing Kev rather, potentially that the SFA might come back to us and say, well, Kev has to serve a suspension at some point.
Yep.
But at this point in time, we haven't been served a notice of complaint from the SFA. So there's no didn't stop us playing Kev on Friday night. He'll continue to play in our matches until the SFA say otherwise. I don't know what will happen on that front. He missed one game last week because we were being overly cautious. In hindsight, he probably could have played in that match, but we didn't play him against Troon. Probably lost the game. Would not have him in the lineup, but he would have not played the game anyway had he had served the suspension. So I think we as a club would draw under the line. There's been a lot of chat about, I think, a lot of stuff online. It's just a lot of nonsense. Certainly, Chris.
Yeah, I saw kind of Meadows from their official account. I know yous are rivals and big rivals in that, but I saw like a tweet from Colin Boyd that the Meda had obviously been sent these correspondent. You're not acting responsibly as a club if you have all this information and you're trying to distort it and say it's something else. You know, whether it was just a wee bit of banter, I don't know, but it certainly seemed like it wasn't in terms of their perspective. And I don't like criticising clubs or people in that, but yeah, it was just a wee bit unprofessional, in my opinion. And this is me saying it, not Ben or Colin or whoever. I mean, that's just how my feeling on it. At the end of the day, right, there's systems in place, not just in football, but and if you look at that system and think, oh well, that's telling me one thing, and it ends up being another, that is not your fault. That is not Lauren's fault. It's not the Buff's fault. It's not your fault, Ben. It's not the players' fault. You know, yeah, exactly what the West of Scotland board said. There's no case to answer because you had, as a club, and Lauren as a secretary had done all these things to make sure there was no suspensions, and it just comes out after the fact. Oh, actually, this is a mistake from the SFA that should be getting it right in the first place. You know what I mean? So, yeah, the Buffs. It would have been a shame if the Buffs did get deducted points for that. We're used to these sort of conspiracy theories and brown envelope sort of nonsense that we. I mean, it's especially the last sort of few years. Not so much with the West of Scotland, but certainly the Lowland League. We've all heard, the puppet master theories and all that sort of stuff with the coke teams and whatever else.
Everyone said it's the old firm that run the SFA and Scottish football. Turns out it was Kilwinning Rangers. That's apparently.
I knew that was coming.
It's absolute nonsense. Just nonsense. But yeah, we move on. There's also been a full card of fixtures in the West of Scotland Football League. Chris, want to start with the first game, which is obviously my game?
Yeah, finally got into talking about it. Obviously, Darvel beat your Buffs 3-1. Really good result. I heard Alan McKenzie played really well, Ben.
Did you just hear that? Did you not watch the highlights now?
I did watch the highlights, didn't I? Because apparently Kennedy's getting it.
Aye, I don't know what happened there. Some fan was had a few too many balls in Buckfast or something. It was like, Mick Kennedy's getting it, but strange one. But yeah, in terms of the result, 3-1 defeat for us against Darvel. We unfortunately lost Thomas Collins to a broken wrist, potentially for about 6 weeks. Yeah, so for us, not ideal prep. He got injured very late on in training on Wednesday night. We also lost Gav Miller to potentially a broken toe as well. So yeah, I think for us it was just a case of, I guess, a repeat of last week. As far as I'm concerned, it was just the individual mistakes defensively cost us. Big Dylan Mackey gets a goal. Delighted for Dylan. He took it hard last week, missing a couple of good chances, which he probably should have scored. And he played well. One of his headers was playing kind of almost solo up front. He could have had Jordan Stewart playing off him, but he had obviously Jordan having to do a lot of running, and Dylan was winning the headers and holding the ball in well. And I think if we just had a bit more pace up front, if we'd had Gav or we had Thomas, Connor Bolger was also out as well, with another one who's got a bit of pace around him, and we just missed that up front. And I think right now as a team, we don't seem to be able to have the defensive part right, and then when we have the forward part going, the defensive part struggles. So we just need to try and get that balance. We're really good in the middle of the park. I think obviously we get Chris Miller, Kevin Nicol, Mark Miller, Mark Lamont playing in the middle of the park, and those guys are excellent for us in the centre midfield. And I think the thing for us as well as a club, we're so, the squad's so new. As I said, we're talking about the disciplinary stuff. We've signed 15 new players. Like it's like, I don't want to say transition again, but I mean that's exactly what's happened here. Straney left, obviously, and a lot of his players left as well, and there's not many around from the season before. But I don't have any concerns. I wouldn't have said, and probably Darvel fans and players and managers, if they're listening to this, will disagree. But I don't think we were like a million miles apart from Darvel. Yeah, they maybe had a few chances that were chopped off for offside and things like that, and free and fouls, and it could have been a different scoreline. But I'm not overly worried about the Buffs right now, certainly from my perspective. And I think we'll be okay. We'll come good.
Alan McKenzie is a top West of Scotland player. He's phenomenal when he's on fire. I don't think we've really talked about him too much in terms of Darvel, but he is just a top player, isn't he, in the West of Scotland?
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, I think probably Alan McKenzie managed to get a couple of starts off the back of Lewis Morrison getting suspended for 2 games. Yeah. I don't know that Alan plays personally from the start. Most situations. We've also got Ross Caldwell as well, who's a great forward. Scott Ferguson, another great forward. But as I say, I don't think Alan starts, and whether or not he'll continue to start when Lewis is back next week, because Lewis Morrison's a great forward. I mean, that's he's absolutely tremendous. He's pacey. He knows where the goal is. He can play in a variety of positions as well. And I think for me, you probably can't take Alan out the team after a hat trick against the Buffs, and Lewis will maybe have to wait his turn to get back in the side. But there's no doubt that at some point that Lewis Morrison's going to get that position back in the team, and Alan might find himself on the bench. But yeah, great forward. He took his goals really well as well, and it was a right handful for our defence. And as I said, we just struggled defensively. It slaps the concentration. It's not doing things quite right. I mean, you probably it's a bit unorthodox for me in some situations to try and make challenges positionally. I think we're pretty poor at times, but I think that'll come. We've got kind of inexperienced players within the team at the back as well, and that's probably part of it too. And those guys will come good as they play with these more experienced players like Chris Miller, Kevin Nicol, etc., who are seasoned pros at this level. And yeah, I'm not overly worried about the bust of Darvel. I mean, just a word on Darvel, they look good. They look like a good side. The park is phenomenal. The new park they've got is absolutely tremendous. They obviously had issues last season with the park and got slated for it last year, but they've relayed it. Obviously, the proof will be in the pudding whether it manages to survive the winter and things like that. But I think I'd assume that the work's been done properly, and it looks phenomenal. I was walking on it pre-match, and what a bad grass it is. Absolutely.
Yeah, I saw a picture I think Mick took, and it just looked like a bowling greenie. We've probably covered Darvel and Kilwinning probably too much there, Ben. So we'll just kind of round up the rest of the West. Obviously, Cambuslang Rangers at home against Auckland Lake Talbot. Talbot just kind of saw that one out, got the 1-0 win.
Left it late, I think it was. I think it was like 10 minutes to go or something. Got the result, but that's what Auckland Lake doing it. They find a way to win.
Yep. We've kind of discussed Meda. I did see a tweet saying that the best thing for them was to claim the 3 points at home today, but they never. Arthurley obviously got the 1-0 win against them. One game I think we have to highlight, because I did give it Game of the Week, was Hurlford United against Cumnock Juniors. Both seem to have started the season well up until that point. Obviously, it was only 2 games in fairness, but Hurlford United got the 3-1 win. Mark McKenzie, Paul McKenzie and Jordan Whittaker. And Kyle McCausland, who I know you rate, Ben, obviously got the goal for Cumnock. I heard it was a really decent game. I saw the Ayrshire News team were there as well. So
yeah,
I think tough on the conditions, obviously. Yeah.
I think, obviously we talked about Cumnock the last couple of weeks, and I actually got dug out by Brian McGinnity on Friday night, because apparently we never spoke about their game last week. I don't remember this, but he's like, you don't talk about my game last week, but we'll talk about this week, Brian. Obviously, getting their first defeat of the season off of Hurlford. I think they had a couple of players out. But Hurlford are a side you just don't know what you're going to get with Hurlford. I think for me, when you play them, they could turn up and be the best team in the park, or they could be absolutely awful. I think there's no real in between when it comes to Hurlford. Obviously, we played them in the League Cup final and things like that, and they were okay, and we were okay that day. And but yeah, very up and down in terms of Hurlford. But that's 2 wins in the bounce for them now.
We need to. It's really hard doing a balancing act, guys, when we're doing these podcasts, because there's so much to cover in terms of the leagues, and obviously, we didn't even talk about East Kilbride last week. We kind of sort of mentioned East Kilbride Celtic B, and then kind of just never talked about it. Obviously, Doogie keeps moaning me about Pennycook, so that's probably what to do. Just keep moaning at us, like, right, you need to talk about such and such, and we'll remember to do it. But there's always so much to cover, isn't there, Ben? One of these things, but. Right, the other results, tough one for my beloved Largs Thistle. 5-1 defeat against Kirkintilloch Rob Roy, who have started this season phenomenally well, Ben.
Yeah, I was quite surprised about that myself. I think Stuart Maxwell's a great manager at Rob Roy. Seems to get his players started. I think they're actually top of the league as it stands just now. And wee bit concerned for Largs, if I'm being honest. Not the greatest of starts for them. I think there's been a bit of a change over there as well. Obviously losing Will Sewell and things like that. It's a big gap to fill as far as 40 odd goals, whatever it was he scored last year. So yeah, great result for Rob Roy. Got to give them credit there. Going down to Largs, playing in the Astros. You said it was hot. It was stuffy. Probably the longest away trip for Rob Roy as well, in terms of going all the way down to Largs and things like that. So yeah, absolutely great win for them. Did
you I might be mistaken this, but did you have them as sort of relegation candidates at the
Rob Roy
season? Yeah.
I had them near the bottom. Yeah, I definitely had them near the bottom.
No, I seem to mind that, and I'm thinking, oh, they've started well. So no, it's cool. PSL, obviously, another team that we kind of thought might struggle, got defeated at home against Beef Juniors 3-0.
Good win for the Beefy Bakes, man. Good win for them. 3-0 Stony away from home against PSL. We'll be absolutely delighted about that.
Pollock saw off Glenafton 3-2. Pollock we've kind of talked about a lot. With different opinions on them, Ben, but a decent win at home against Glenafton.
Yeah, I think so. I think the thing for me that stands out with Pollock is that the signings they have made look like they're decent signings, and I wasn't too sure about them to begin with, but I'm not saying that Pollock are going to win the league or anything like that, are going to be anywhere near it, because I still believe that they're going to be below us. But we want to get our finger out, obviously, to get that going. But yeah, I mean, great win for Pollock. Glenafton, they are what they are. I think, again, another probably hot and cold type side. Obviously, with Ryan Stevenson in charge, they kind of 1 week they look brilliant, next week they look very ordinary. But yeah, great win for Pollock, and obviously it's probably been a good day down there in Newlands Field under the nice hot conditions. It's a great part they've got there as well, and it's a great wee set up at Pollock too.
And ironically, we've kind of done the same as we done in the last pod where we were talking about Ryan Stevenson. So we'll go straight into the final result of the West of Scotland Premier. Your favourite Troon, of course. Great result, 3-1 against Clydebank. I did kind of read over that one. Sam Jameson not on the score sheet again, who we've mentioned before as well. So Troon, I tell you what, another one that's kind of, for me, certainly been surprising how they've started the season.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I don't know what you're alluding to there about Sam Jameson there, Chris, but you said it.
We're only winding him up. We're only winding him.
I mean, let's just be honest. It's nothing about Sam himself. It's not about Sam. No. It's about the comments. But yeah, I mean, great result for Troon. They set themselves up to be dogged and hard to play against, and that's what they are. They're no world beaters in terms of the side. They don't play brilliant football or anything like that. They're out there and they're battling away and getting results. Also scoring 3. I don't really know what's going on at Clydebank, to be honest. I think they're struggling a bit. I listened to Moff's interview after the game and stuff, and he obviously sounded disappointed about the result, but I don't think he knows what's really going on properly just now, and he's trying to, I think, probably still trying to get a squad together. Not maybe he's obviously got the guys that come back from last year. He's brought in a few bodies, but I think he's still looking for players and trying to beef that squad up, because I think they're maybe kind of struggling for depth, and I think that'll maybe get worse as the season gets on, and suspensions and injuries kind of start to kick in. But I wouldn't expect them to win or to get beat 3-1, certainly off a Troon. I hope they can turn out, because we've got a lot of time for Clydebank, so just have some expense of us.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is that Moff's probably eyeing the Man United job. I'm only kidding, obviously. We've said that sort of patter before, but you can't really put your finger on it sometimes with teams like Clydebank and teams that are potentially you think are going to do better and they don't start too well. But again, it's 3 games in the west of Scotland. I mean, it's no panic. Clydebank, I don't think had a complete overhaul of their team from what I've noticed, and then I think they've got Aidan McDonald on loan from East Kilbride, the sort of young centre half, so he's a decent player. But yeah, I think they'll pick up. But yeah, certainly the Rob Roy and Troon have been quite interesting.
Surprise packages of the league, but as you said, there's only 3 games in. I think that's the thing I keep coming back to with ourselves. Is like, I'm not panicking right now about results and things like that. We obviously, some teams are going to a free week next weekend with the way the fixtures are in place because the South Challenge Cup, and then it's the Scottish Cup the following Saturday. So that's obviously great. Some teams in the West of Scotland Premier League will be involved in that because they're obviously getting the licence and it'll be their first time. Obviously for us, it's we play Rutherford away, which is going to be a great occasion. And within the Scottish Cup, I mean, it would have been nice to have a kind of different side rather than another West of Scotland team. But we'll hopefully go there and get a result. And the rest of the West Scotland teams with the licence, I'll be looking forward to that as well. And Clydebank, as we mentioned, they done well last year in the Scottish Cup. They were excellent, and they'll potentially have a bit of an eye on that too, to hopefully be a cup side and go on another run and do all that like they done last year. So yeah,
Socky. We need to get Socky in there as well.
I think we're obviously fortunate that we've got the full fixture list. You can plan out your season a bit better, and probably for us, I'm not too sure. Obviously, Goms can tell me differently, but it's probably nice to get a free week next week. Maybe get a bit of training done and work on some stuff ahead of that cup game, because those cup games for all clubs in the license, or the licensed West Scotland Premier League teams and East and South are massive, because you want to go in that run because of the kind of potential financial rewards that come with playing. You're not going to win the Scottish Cup. Let's face it. I mean, if you win the Scottish Cup as a Tier 6 Scottish football side, then they're going to be making films about you. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about.
Roy of the Rovers type stuff,
It'll be like that. What was it called? A Shot at Glory, the one that Ali McCoy's done. Remember the side at Kilnockie or something like that? It was all filmed at Rugby Park. I was in the crowd that day for that film. It'll be like that if you go and win the Scottish Cup as a Tier 6, even Tier 5 side, probably. I mean, they're talking about.
Wait a minute. I didn't know that about you. How old were you? You must have been young at that point.
No, I was just in the crowd. I was just like I was a punter in the crowd. Like I was like sitting in the stand, like watching the game.
No, but how old were you?
Oh, I'd have been about 8 or something like that, maybe 9. I mean, quite young. Yeah, he was young, but Robert Duvall was like director, like sitting in the dugout, being like, he was like, I think he was like the manager or something. Like, he was also the director of the film, and I've got the DVD, the video, VHS.
I've seen it,
that's how old it is.
I'm sure I've seen it like once, and I've never watched it since. But I'm sure I've watched it like way back in the fucking 20 years ago or something. You know what I mean?
I mean, it was obviously a bit gimmicky and cringy, like in terms of a bit of a cheese fest Scottish football film, but it was cool, man. Like, I remember being young and being like, they're filming a football like movie in Kilmarnock. This is mad. Like, this is like.
What was that one with Sylvester Stallone? Was it Escape to Victory or something? Remember that one where he's a goalkeeper and he looks like the worst goalkeeper in the world, and he's up against fucking Pele and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? So that was a good film. I've not seen that in years.
If you just tuned in, folks, this is the new Scottish football film podcast with Ben and Chris. But yeah, that that gives a roundup of what happened across the tiers 5, 6, and 7, I guess, this week. I'll not make a joke about a million tiers within Scottish football this week, but where can everyone find us, Chris, if you want to get in touch?
Official Catchup on Twitter, Lowland League Catchup on Facebook, and pretty much everywhere else. We are also on LinkedIn now, which is interesting. I was updating my LinkedIn. I thought I was had a page. I invited you, by the way, Ben.
Okay, is that okay?
Yeah, so I'll be posting links on LinkedIn as well, which will be strange, but yeah, I'm not expecting a lot of professionals will be following the Catch-Up on LinkedIn, but yeah, cool.
Maybe we could get a sponsor. Maybe from LinkedIn. Maybe that's a place to get a sponsor from. But
we're just everywhere. We're just everywhere. You know?
I mean, if you want to sponsor the podcast, then hit us up. Show us the money. The saying goes. So show us free stuff. I'd do it for free stuff at this point. I'm not really bothered with money.
A hat. He'll be bought off by a Stirling Uni hat. So.
Nah, see, it's coming into winter at some point. I want a jacket. If somebody can get me a jacket, then I'll be interested in talking sponsorship deals, because I cannot get fucking Joe my gear for love nor money right now. So if somebody can sort me out with some sort of branded merch from the official Catch-Up, then that'll do me fine. I don't want Joe, I want maybe Adidas or something like that instead, because I'm worth a bit and I like to look good. So sort me out. If you want to get in touch with me, it's at Mr. Ben Grant on Twitter, as always. Get in my DMs, get in my ads, whatever you want to do. If you're not happy about what I said earlier on about the old what was it, ineligible player pattern. But anyway, on that note, we'll round the podcast up there and catch you all next week. Cheers.